Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from New York. I'm Susan Tehrani. Here are the top stories we're following this hour. A Twitter poll put out by Elon Musk himself votes him out as the social media giant's chief, with 57% of votes wanting to remove Musk. Will Musk live up to his promise to quit, or has he already selected a CEO? The question many are asking is this a trouble for Donald Trump? The January 6th committee probing the Capitol riots is likely to ask the U.S. State Department, the Department of Justice, to prosecute the former president. The Vatican is getting political. It dismisses a Trump-supporting anti-abortion leader from priesthood. Father Frank Pavone has been removed for, quote, blasphemous social media posts and disobedience to bishops. High Court in London upholds the British government's contentious policy to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. Human rights defenders cry foul, say the move violates international law. Pope Francis orders the return of the 2,500-year-old Parthenon marbles to Greece from the Vatican. The move adds to pressure on the UK to return the larger collection of sculptures. More headlines from Twitter. A Twitter poll by Elon Musk has voted out Elon Musk as Twitter boss. His public poll on whether he should stay or go has voted decisively against it. In the Twitter poll, over 57% of participants voted to remove Musk, and only 42% of them voted for him to continue. Over 17 million users voted in the poll. Musk has come under massive fire, notably from liberals, over the last couple of months on his takeover and handling of the social media company, after finding himself in what some call recurring controversies. The Twitter chief posted a poll on the social media platform and asked Twitter users whether he should step down as its CEO. He also added that he would abide by the results of the polls. But all's not confirmed yet. Some say Musk has already picked a CEO, and this may be a publicity stunt. Also, Musk has a history of publicly committing to things and then reversing course, be it taking Tesla private or the takeover of Twitter itself. So the question arises, will the new Twitter chief really abide by the results of the polls? And what, if anything, will happen to the sweeping changes Musk made on the platform? Also, what happens to those laid off en masse following the ascent of a new CEO? A lot of questions left unanswered, at least for now. For more on this, senior equity analyst Daniel Ives is joining us live from New York. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. This seems like another publicity stunt by Elon Musk as he finds himself in uncharted territory when it comes to Twitter. What are your thoughts about this new poll he put out?
Yeah, I think this is real. I think ultimately the clock struck midnight with frustration from investors around Musk being CEO of Twitter and CEO of Tesla. The controversy day by day, it's hurt the brand of Musk. And I think he was reading the room. And we believe in the next 24 hours, he steps down as CEO.
And some say that perhaps Musk had already picked a CEO. Again, this was really to create some kind of headline and for the media to start talking about him, and Twitter, once again, for him to keep himself in the news cycle, if you may. I mean, what are the chances of that he had already made his decision?
Look, I think a succession plan has definitely potentially been in place. I do believe he tried to turn this around himself. I think he recognized it was a quicksand situation over his skis. And I think ultimately it's been very difficult in terms of what's happened to Tesla. Because remember, that's 90% plus of his wealth, and that's a public company. So I think, this really hit a point where it was a fork in the road situation. He read the room, and it was time for him to ultimately, I think, end that CEO reign. But now we got to see, what happens over the coming hours. But we do believe he goes forward and leaves as CEO of Twitter.
And from an investor's perspective, what do you think is the future of Twitter? Do you think that it can move forward financially in the current situation that it's in?
Look, I think the controversies significantly hurt advertisers. I mean, this is a company we believe could be losing $4 billion plus per year now. It's a lot of red ink. I think it's going to be an Everest-like uphill battle. But ultimately, it starts with a new CEO, someone that could kind of get advertisers back on. Ultimately, what Musk has done since he bought it, it's really been a train wreck situation as advertisers have left. And from the journalism to some other situations that we've seen, some of the bans, I think it's just been an overall dark cloud, not just over Twitter, over Musk, the brand, as well as Tesla.
All right, lots to determine. Thank you so much, Daniel Ives, joining us from New York City. The panel probing the January 6th Capitol riots is expected to formally ask the U.S. Department of Justice to prosecute former U.S. President Donald Trump over his possible role in the Capitol riots. Lawmakers are to vote on the issue in a few hours. The 3 counts in question are the charges of inciting a, quote, insurrection, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. The committee will unveil the findings on their investigation into the deadly riot. The historic recommendation of a prosecution against an ex-president may lay down a marker for future elections and presidents alike. On January 6th last year, thousands of Trump supporters ransacked the U.S. Capitol building following allegations of fraud in the 2020 U.S. presidential elections. At least 5 people died due to the incident, and reports say 140 police officers were injured. About 900 people have been arrested in connection with the incident. The bipartisan U.S. House of Representatives committee, including 7 Democrats and only 2 Republicans, led an extensive probe into the incident. The committee interviewed more than 1,000 witnesses and held public hearings into what happened on January 6, 2021. The 3 charges reportedly being considered could result in prison time and a ban from public office for the former president. The committee says its final report is due for release on Wednesday.
You better run, cops!
The Vatican has dismissed a pro-Trump U.S. priest over what it calls blasphemous social media posts and disobedience to bishops. Father Frank Pavone, a leader of the U.S. anti-abortion movement and a strong supporter of Donald Trump, now stands dismissed from Catholic priesthood. According to a letter sent to U.S. bishops from its ambassador to Washington, the Vatican defrocked Pavone in November of this year. The letter reportedly says Pavone will not be allowed to appeal. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Pavone released a video of an aborted fetus on an altar and urged Catholics not to vote for Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. The 63-year-old priest had a scratchy relationship with many of his bishop superiors, often over actions they deemed too political. After Trump lost to Joe Biden in 2020, Pavone was among those who questioned the validity of those elections. Moving on to Canada, 5 people have been killed and 1 injured in a shooting incident in Toronto. The suspect has also reportedly was killed in an exchange of fire with the police. The shooting took place in a residential unit in the suburbs of Vaughan on Sunday. Bodies of the victims were found in different parts of the residential complex. The police have launched a probe and are investigating any possible links between the victims and suspect. Canada has recorded an upsurge in gun crimes in the past few years. Since 2009, the gun crime rate in the country has increased 5-fold. The country's biggest mass shooting incident occurred in 2020, where a man disguised as a policeman killed 22 people in the province of Nova Scotia. After the incident, Canadian government announced the ban on 1,500 types of military-grade or assault-style firearms. The ban was amended in October earlier this year. The government announced a strict handgun freeze measure, restricting the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns within the country. On to the UK, where asylum seekers entering the UK by boat will be deported to Rwanda. The UK's contentious policy to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda has got the nod from the High Court in London. Human rights defenders are to appeal against the ruling, saying the policy violates international law. More than 40,000 people have arrived by small boats across the English Channel, according to the British government reports. UK's deportation policy is intended to deter those crossing the English Channel in small boats. Britain and France signed an agreement recently to stem growing numbers of small boats carrying migrants to the British Isle. It comes at a time when some Western nations are taking a tough stance on accepting refugees. Britain is to pay Rwanda about £120 million for education and job training for those sent to Rwanda. Those granted asylum will not be allowed to return. For more on this, our correspondent Alex Izet has more. Take a look at this report.
The case to deport refugees to Rwanda has been rumbling on for a couple of years. In fact, there was potential to deport 8 people earlier this year, but they didn't get on that flight, and their cases are now currently being reviewed. But the High Court today has said that it is legal to be able to deport these people, not just those 8, but others as well. And it actually is not against the Refugee Convention or the human rights laws. Now, opposition campaigners and a lot of the migrant charities are saying that they will appeal this ruling that occurred today, and they will have their appeal heard on January 16th of next year. Up until that point, there won't be anyone that will be able to be deported, but it does look like it's a first step in Suella Braverman's push to ensure that this country, the UK, can actually do what it would like to do with the refugees that have come illegally into the country.
3 pieces of the ancient Greek Parthenon temple dating back 2,500 years are to be returned to Greece from the Vatican, where they've been kept for the last 2 centuries. The 3 fragments from the temple, known as the Parthenon marbles, include a head of a horse, a head of a boy, and a bearded male head, which have been held by the Vatican since the 19th century. Pope Francis termed the return a concrete sign of his sincere desire to follow in the path of truth. The pieces will go back to the Greek Orthodox Church and not the Greek government. The Greek Ministry of Culture and Sports expressed gratitude and hoped the move would put pressure on the British Museum, where a larger collection of the Parthenon sculptures are kept. The British Museum has refused to return larger collections of Parthenon sculptures, also known as the Elgin marbles. Greece has repeatedly appealed to the UK to return the sculptures, which Britain's Lord Elgin had removed from the Parthenon temple in the early 19th century. The world is celebrating the greatest sporting event of this year. The Qatar World Cup has come to an end and left a legacy in which football fans will be looking up to for the coming decades. The FIFA 2020 World Cup has been special for many reasons, from extreme weather to tournament debuts. We look at this year's World Cup breaking news ground. This is the first flagship tournament to be held in a West Asian nation. It was the maiden time where an African or Arab team made it to the semifinals. Ahead of the World Cup, the biggest question was, how will Qatar be able to manage the visitor influx, given it is the smallest country to host the World Cup in its 92-year-old history? Qatar managed to pull the challenge off. In addition, it was the first time that all 8 host cities were located within 100 kilometers of each other, taking the match fervor further.
Have been of great quality in beautiful stadiums. We knew that already. However, as well, the public who was there was incredible. Over 51,000 on average, record-breaking figures on TV. We already had over 2 billion viewers, which is really incredible. 2.5 million people in the streets of Doha, and a few 100,000 every day in the stadiums, all together, cheering together, supporting their teams. Fantastic atmosphere, great goals, incredible excitement, surprises, small teams beating big teams.
Since the beginning, the World Cup was full of surprises in which the mighty fell and some of the lesser fancy teams proved that with skill, determination, and passion, dreams do come true. Football powerhouses like Germany, Spain, and Brazil failed to meet expectation on several occasions, while the underdogs exceeded them, charting history. The biggest proof of this is Morocco. The team stunned the world by defeating the Europeans, becoming the first African nation to reach the semis. It was also the first Arab nation to advance beyond the round of 16, backed by the support of millions. The Atlas Lions beat Portugal, Spain, and Belgium before losing to France.
The national team has made a historic achievement. At the level of Moroccan, African and Arab football, we wish them good luck in the future. Their achievement will still be remarkable in the history of Arab football.
The 2022 World Cup was also the first time when a female referee officiated a men's World Cup match. 38-year-old Stephanie Frappart became the first woman to take charge of a men's match at the tournament finals.
They just went up and took over. I don't know who that is.
Lionel Messi's stature as the greatest footballer of all time is now secure. The 35-year-old achieved sporting immortality by ending Argentina's 36-year wait for the FIFA World Cup. Having carried the weight of a nation for so long, it is time for Argentina to salute its greatest son.
There are some moments in sport that endure, that stand the test of time. On Sunday, one man looked Father Time in the eye, asked for a few more magical moments, and realized a childhood dream. In his 5th and final World Cup, Lionel Messi finally crossed the threshold that divides the good from the greatest. Argentina ended a 36-year wait for the holy grail in football, with Messi leading them to the promised land.
For now, I think we'll have to save him a spot for the next World Cup, even though it's in 2026. What more is there to say? He can have the number 10 jersey as long as he wants. I think he's earned the right to decide for himself what he wants to do with his career and with the national team. He hasn't got anything left to prove.
In 1986, Diego Maradona single-handedly won the World Cup for Argentina. 2022 will be Lionel Messi's World Cup. The Golden Boot eluded him. It was claimed by a more than worthy winner in Kylian Mbappe. But Messi became the first man to be crowned player of the tournament twice. The Golden Ball in 2014 wasn't the most popular. There are no doubts over this one.
What he transmits to his teammates is something I have never seen before. I have never seen someone be so influential with his teammates, and that's amazing.
Maradona's 1986 triumph elevated him to godlike status in Argentina. A status that stayed intact through the numerous controversies that dogged his life. Messi's individual brilliance had him down as one of the greatest of all time, but not the greatest in Argentina. That has changed now. The little man from Rosario, who almost never made it as a professional footballer, is now the toast of Argentina. He has rightly taken his place alongside the great Maradona and Pelé as the greatest to have played the game. And can anyone now dispute his status as the greatest of all time? The GOAT?
Messi has always been the best in the world. Always. He's always shown that. This was all he was missing, and he got it too. Because he's the best.
Where is Mbappe? Where is Mbappe? Where is Mbappe? Where is Messi with the World Cup? Vamos Argentina, vamos Argentina.
2 years ago, Argentina came to a standstill. The great Maradona's passing plunged this football-crazy nation into mourning. They came in their thousands to pay tribute to the man dubbed the most humane of their gods. 2 years later, a similar sea of humanity at the obelisk in Buenos Aires. This time, a national celebration. Argentina has forgotten its problems.
Vivía desde Francia 98, que empezaba en mundiales, y la verdad que hoy estaba compartiéndolo con mis amigos y es una locura, es una alegría que todavía no caigo, compartirlo con amigos, con familiares, la verdad que es algo que no me voy a olvidar nunca, venir acá con la gente, esto une a todo el pueblo y la verdad que nada, contento, muy feliz, no tengo palabras.
The final was billed as Lionel Messi versus Kylian Mbappe, the king against the heir apparent. Both emerged with their reputations intact, in fact even enhanced. The king triumphed, but a billion-plus audience also witnessed the passing of the baton, the coronation of the new king of football.
He's a great player, but he's young and I told him that he was only 24 years old. What do you want me to tell you? He was a top scorer in this cup. He's an extraordinary player. He has already won a World Cup. He made it to a final and he's only 24 years old. And I say it frankly, I'm not the best place to try to reason with people now, because I was at least as sad as he was.
Another debate has been settled. The one that has dominated conversations in bars, stadiums and even living rooms over the last 15 years. The Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo debate is over. All hail the GOAT. Sports Bureau, WION World is One.
Arab